what a memories. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Your Excellency, Dr. Sheikh Rana bint Isa bint Eid Al Khalifa, Secretary General of the Higher Education Council, Deputy Chairperson of the Board of Trustees of the Higher Education Council, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests and authors, good morning. Before diving into my conference speech, I would like to extend a warm welcome that best reflects our distinguished guests and authors from a wide range of cultures who have traveled from all over the world to be with here in Bahrain. Actually, in the capital of the land of peace, Kingdom of Bahrain. And I'm sure most of you have been to Bahrain before, while for some others, it's their first time. But I can assure you that you will always feel at home in Bahrain. It's worth highlighting that different cultures make people understand each other better. And if they understand each other in their soul, it's easier to overcome the world's most complex and challenging problems. And here, we are not holding an ordinary meetings for such an event. Today's gathering is extraordinary. Today is the day when authors from all walks of life and ideas come together to come up with solutions, solve problems, and bring about a better resolutions through the word of science and research. And so, it's absolutely true that scientific research is to see what everybody else have seen and to think what nobody else have thought of. If we integrate the notion of digitalization and leadership decisions with the findings of scientific research, then the primary focus and the core thinking will shift toward the benefit of performing the idea of corporate strategies through technology in a manner that is greener, quicker, and more effective. And this is where the International Conference of the Leadership and Management Projects in Digital Age comes into play. And now, let's welcome on stage conference chairs, Professor Ghassan Awad, President of Applied Science University, and Professor Chris Harty on behalf of Professor Deborah Johnston, Deputy Vice Chancellor of London South Bank University.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. I feel like the two Ronis this morning. Chris is so tall and I'm just short in comparison with him. Unfortunately, Professor Deborah Johnston could not make it because of some illness, and she's got severe flu, in fact, not COVID, she told me. And she sent her best wishes, so Professor Chris Harty will stand for her. Good morning. Your Excellency, Dr. Sheikh Rana bint Isa bint Eid Al Khalifa, Secretary General of the Higher Education Council, Deputy Chairperson of the Board of Trustees of the Higher Education Council, Patron of the conference. Your Excellencies, fellow President of Bahraini Universities, distinguished guests, colleagues and friends, students, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning and welcome to the International Conference on the Leadership and Management of Projects in the Digital Age, ICLAMP 2022. Assalamu alaikum wa ahla wa sahla fikum jami'an. Your Excellency, Dr. Sheikh Rana, this conference is about leadership, and you represent leadership in its all nice aspects. Your vision is exceptional, and your human approach to leadership is transforming the higher education sector in Bahrain, and we are all grateful for your support and great achievements. Your Excellency, the University for Peace, which was founded by the United Nations General Assembly in 1980, has recently awarded you with an honorary doctorate as the first Arab woman to receive such an honorary award. We know that presidents of states, very influential people have received this award from the University for Peace. So this will speak for much more than what I could say about your leadership and achievement. It's an honor to have you as the patron of this conference. I would like to give Her Excellency a big round of applause for this conference covers a very important topic with 53 papers from 16 countries to be presented over the next 2 days. Digital transformation, digital marketing, education, innovation, and digital construction are the main themes of this conference. There's no question that technologies like artificial intelligence, virtual reality, cloud computing, big data, blockchain, drone for peaceful purposes, please, not to attack innocent people, will transform our lives. We will soon start seeing solar and smart motorways. Motorways will be made of structured panels which can reflect and help in generating energy, in fact. And the current mobile phones we are using now, they will become part of the past. Your Excellency, the British Ambassador, when we were in the UK, we loved the boxes where we could use the red phone box to phone our families, and they are now in the museum. I think the mobile phones we have now will become part of the past. It's very likely that microchips will be embedded in our bodies to perform various functions, including making phone calls. So we'll use our fingers to dial, maybe. I'm grateful to our co-organizer, LSBU, and in particular, Professor Deborah Johnson, represented today by Professor Chris Harty and Ms. Aisata, who's in the audience. I'm really grateful for all your hard work. This is the third major conference we are organizing with LSBU. Our partner, the Charter Institute of Building, we have Matt Doran here, and May, thank you for being with us. We have the Association of Arab Universities, His Excellency Professor Amr Azza Salama, and we are really grateful for all your support, and Ms. Lina Bitar as well, who's in the audience as well. I'm really grateful to you. And we have the Bahrain Society of Engineers, and we have the President, our President, Dr. Raida, the first female president, that's correct, huh? Of Bahrain Society of Engineers. And I'm absolutely delighted with the performance of women in Bahrain. When you see what's happening, I mean, our higher education sector is led by Her Excellency. We have 5 university presidents, Professor Jawahir, Professor Yusra, Dr. Mawjudi Kaman, yes, and who else? So we have almost 25% president who are female. We have 8 MPs in the parliament out of 40 MPs, which is a very good number. We have 5 ministers in the recent government. So it shows the quality of the transformation of our kingdom, in fact. And we have, of course, Advanced HE, and we have Christian Rumble, who's the head of international programs in the, where is he, Christian? He's okay, Christian, thank you. I'm pleased to announce that 2 best papers to the value of £250 sterling will be awarded by the CIOB, and 1 paper by Advanced HE. So in total, we have £750 from our organizations and collaborators in the UK. The CIOB has also provided partial sponsorship to the conference proceedings. We are really grateful to you, Matt and May, and to the Chief Executive, Caroline Gamble, for supporting us. I would like to thank all authors, speakers, keynote speaker, Dr. Ashwin Fernandez. We're really grateful to you. Chair of the Scientific Committee, Professor Riyad Shalabi, and their members. Chair of the Organizing Committee, Mr. Abdullah Al-Khaja, and their members, panelists, session chairs, and so on. 4 colleagues should be thanked individually because I know how much work they have put into this conference. First, Dr. Amina Bouallai. Where is Dr. Amina? Dr. Amina, she's the Acting Director of Accreditation and Licensing in the Higher Education Council. She's in the top 2% on the Stanford list, which is many congratulations. This has been announced recently. And I know that Dr. Amina and her team has read every single paper in the proceeding, which has 600 pages of text, imagine, every single one. My colleagues here as well, Mr. Rukhaya, who worked so hard, Mr. Muaz, and really, the star is Miss Maryam Ali, and I don't know where is Maryam now, maybe outside. I know she's working. She has sent emails to every single person maybe in the conference, I don't know how many times, maybe 100 times, and she managed to get the proceedings, compile it, and do a fantastic job. The only thing we had, the slight delay this morning because of the wedding which has happened in this hotel. Now, I'm also pleased to announce that we will be selecting papers. I spoke to my good friend, Professor Wahib al-Nasser, from Arabian Gulf University, Vice President, and inshallah, we'll select some papers, put them in your journal, which is indexed by ISI and Scopius. That's correct, huh? So I'm really grateful to you, Professor Wahib, once again. I would like to conclude by thanking Her Excellency Dr. Sheikha Rana bint Isa bint Aj Al Khalifa for the kind patronage of our conference, and Professor Wahib for his vision, and to wish you a very successful conference and a pleasant stay in the Kingdom of Bahrain, the Kingdom of Peace, Tolerance, and Coexistence. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Thank you, Ghassan, and Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, conference delegates and colleagues. I'd like to add my welcome from London South Bank University. Professor Deborah Johnson unfortunately couldn't be here. You get me instead, the other Ronnie, the tall Ronnie. So I'm Professor Chris Harty. I'm the Dean of Built Environment and Architecture at LSBU, and I'm delighted to be here. And I'm delighted to welcome you to this important event for us. We're very proud of our partnership with the Applied Sciences University and the work that we've done. It was great for me to see that video of some of the previous conferences and how we've been working together. For over 7 years, we've been working together, starting off with built environment collaborations, moving now into areas of business, general engineering and law. We've graduated 2 sets of cohorts in the time, which is amazing, and we're starting to develop all sorts of other collaborations around research and staff development and indeed student mobility. So it's really important, this link, and it's fantastic to be here on behalf of Deborah and representing LSBU. And of course, this focus of the conference on e-leadership and the management of projects is really, really important, even more important post-COVID. It's really important for the sector generally to understand and develop ways of collaborating digitally, and indeed understanding how that is impacting the way we deliver education in higher education institutes. So we've got sessions later today around this digital transformation in higher education, and certainly this is part of a trajectory at LSBU of developing new ways of delivering education, both in terms of format, for instance, things like our higher technical qualifications or short course programs that can add up over time to degree level, but also to be delivering those as both face-to-face, hybrid, and digital. So really strategically important for us, and it's fantastic to be here. I hope everybody has a stimulating and enjoyable 2 days. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Ghassan, Professor Chris. And now, let's all welcome our patron of the conference, Her Excellency Dr. Sheikha bint Isa bint Aj Al Khalifa, Secretary General of the Higher Education Council, Deputy Chairperson of the Board of Trustees of the Higher Education Council, on stage.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, rahmatullah wa barakatuh. A very good morning to you all. Excellencies, professors, distinguished guests. I would like to begin by thanking the university for giving me the opportunity to patronize today's event and address you all. I would also like to express my sincere gratitude to the university's president, Professor Ghassan Awad, for his kind invitation and his kind words earlier. I would also like to extend my thanks to the chairman of the university's board of trustees, Professor Wahib Al-Khaja, for his continued help and support for all our shared work and efforts at the Higher Education Council. Last but not least, I would like to also be able to take this opportunity to thank all those who are taking part in the conference here today. I am sure that you will all have valuable insights that you will no doubt share with each other over the course of the next 2 days. As you are all aware, we are here today to kick off the Applied Science University and London South Bank University's International Conference on Leadership and Management of Projects in the Digital Age. The conference has 3 clear objectives. First, it seeks to highlight the importance of sustainability-grounded scientific research. Second, it seeks to promote awareness around research in the digital age and shed light on its interplay with projects and with project management. Third, it seeks to help cultivate a broader network of peers and partners who share similar research interests. So, ladies and gentlemen, given that the thematic overview of the conference, I wanted to speak to you a little bit more about the practical dimensions of scientific research, and it's an issue that is especially closely linked with any and all types of R&D performed in engineering and STEM-related professions in general. So, to put it simply, project management techniques can help improve research. This, to me, at least, is an obvious and undisputed sentiment which we all can agree on. So, let us try to consider and piece together some of the best practices for keeping research projects on track. Broadly speaking, without established timelines or performances measures by which to track progress, it can feel like you are constantly racing against time and funding to produce results. But the conversation around research project management is, of course, more nuanced than that. It's easy to get caught up in a rat race when conducting a scientific research. Basic research, often carried out in an academic-type setting, such as university research, or even government-sponsored lab research, tends to be hypothesis-driven or exploratory in nature, rather than productive-driven as in industry. So thus, a basic research project may not only clearly have defined goals and unexpected results, may alter the course of the action at any given time. This basic quandary can easily be offset by injecting traditional project management methods in research projects to make lab work more efficient and productive by defining deadline-driven project deliverables and milestones. Performance measures to evaluate progress and the resources needed to get there. So this information can be captured in a project management plan that creates a roadmap to guide successful project implementation. But what exactly do I mean by project management? Well, simply put, project management can be described as a series of flexible and iterative steps through which you identify where you want to go and reasonable way to get there, with the specifics of who will do what and when. Traditional project management methods have been standardized and successfully employed across a number of industries where projects have definitive timelines and product requirements. However, the dilemma here is the basic scientific research focuses on gaining knowledge instead of driving for new product creation, and thus traditional project management processes cannot be strictly followed where scientific research is concerned. On one hand, in industry, the project plan gets adjusted as learning occurs and is retargeted to the product. The project is committed to producing. On the other hand, in conducting basic research, the end result or product is not the significant part of the result. Research is planned and conducted using scientific method. Intermediate products in the form of data sets and papers are produced and learning to date. The project may be replanned and take off an entirely new direction. This major replanning would rather be acceptable in industry but must be accepted process in instances of basic scientific research. Moreover, higher level of uncertainty, while customary accepted and even embraced in scientific setting, would constitute unacceptable risks in most business settings. So, how do we square this circle of attaining quality research while also realizing that the more industry-facing goals of such initiatives So, well, for starters, we should start by viewing research project management as a sub-discipline that can provide the tools and resources for researchers to better organize projects, but with the flexibility in the planning process to evolve with the project as needed. At the core of the project management is the balancing act among the triple constraints of time, funding, and scope, while ensuring high quality and performance. While time is usually the limiting factor in industry, the uncertain funding environment in academic research may constrain projects to a greater extent. Therefore, careful evaluation of project ideas for their potential return on investment is the first step in the project life cycle. So such factors to consider include whether the project will result in additional funding faster, whether the resources are available and to conduct the project, and whether there is enough time to obtain project results before other impending deadlines. An additional consideration is to evaluate whether the project scope aligns with the overall theme of the research lab and the missions of any sponsoring organizations. Once a project is selected, through planning is required to document the key requirements in a project management plan. Integral to the process is a project timeline that clearly defines milestones and deliverables, with corresponding performance measures that will allow progress to be tracked on a regular basis. Due to the project implementation phase, continuous monitoring allows the research to regularly track progress towards the performance measures, anticipate any slowdowns in the process through risk analysis, and take corrective actions as necessary to keep the project on task. The main point here is to remember how throughout any R&D project is that as science can be unpredictable, the research project management process must remain flexible and adaptable to allow for new discoveries and line of inquiry along the way. All in all, though the challenges that the research project management nexus faces in the future will be even more daunting as science advances and projects become more complex and increasingly sophisticated, researchers such as yourselves can help by focusing on issues that help increase the effectiveness of the project managers, their team, that can ultimately make their work even their lives more productive and satisfying. And what better way to facilitate other than by starting a conversation between the relevant stakeholders and asking these type of questions out in the open. It is for this very reason that the conferences such as this one that we are inaugurating here today are such an excellent venue to start sharing ideas and approaches that offer the potential to increase research project management effectiveness. So with that, I wish to end, and I wish you all the best of luck and success. So thank you very much, and Godspeed. Thank you.
Many thanks, Your Excellency. Professor Wahib Al-Khaja, Chairman of the Board of Trustees, is welcomed on stage to deliver his welcoming speech.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Your Excellency, Dr. Sheikh Rana bint Isa bint Ej Al-Khalifa, Secretary General of the Higher Education Council, Deputy Chairman of the Board of Trustees of the Higher Education Council, Your Excellency Professor Amr Izzat Salama, Secretary General of the Associations of Arab Universities, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, colleagues and friends, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome to the International Conference on the Leadership and the Management of Projects in the Digital Age. I would like to start by thanking Her Excellency Dr. Sheikh Rana bint Isa bint Ej Al Khalifa for her continuous support and for the patronage of this conference. The Higher Education Council is doing a great job in transforming higher education in the kingdom, and we are all committed to their vision and state-of-the-art guiding strategies. As Chairman of Board of Trustees of Applied Science University, it's given me a great pleasure to welcome our distinguished guests and scholars and researchers, practitioners who have come all the way to Bahrain from other countries from the region. This topical conference organized by Applied Science University in association with London South Bank University and with great support from the Charter Institute of Building, the Association of Arab Universities, Bahrain Society of Engineers, and Advanced HE covers important topics and themes related to the leadership and management of projects in the digital age. Topics such as the directions of artificial intelligence, cloud computing, virtual and augmented reality, and building information modeling, BIM, will be addressed amongst many other important areas. The themes of the conference are important for many universities and companies in the Kingdom of Bahrain and beyond. The future leaders of tomorrow needs to be preached what they learn about innovation and technology, and undoubtedly universities can play a major role in the producing these future entrepreneurial leaders. This conference will surely contribute to His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa Vision 2030 to make the Kingdom of Bahrain a truly international knowledge hub. The wise leadership of our kingdom is enabling us to generate knowledge and conduct research that is relevant to our society and communities. ASU has signed a strategic partnership with London South Bank University, and we are launched the College of Engineering nearly 7 years ago, and we are jointly organizing this third international conference with London South Bank University as part of this strategic partnership. I would like to conclude once again by thanking Her Excellency Dr. Sheikh Rana bint Isa bint Eid Al Khalifa for her patronage of the conference, and I also thank again our honorary guest, His Excellency Professor Amr Izzat Salama, Secretary General of the Association of Arab Universities, and I would like also to extend my thanks and gratitude to Professor Chris Harty from London South Bank University, Dr. Raida Al-Alawi, President of the Bahrain Society of Engineers, Ms. Caroline Campbell, Chief Executive of CIOB, Dr. Ashwan Fernandez, Regional Director for QS in the Middle East, Africa, and South Asia, for all the help and support they have given us. I also take this opportunity to thank the distinguished presidents of universities for attending the conference. Your Excellency, ambassadors, all of you, we thank you for being with us today. Last but not least, I thank Professor Ghassan Awad, President of Applied Science University, for leading the university's effort to make this conference happen. To all our esteemed guests, I wish you all a very successful conference and a very pleasant stay in the Kingdom of Bahrain. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor. And now, let's all welcome our conference honorary guest, His Excellency, Professor Amr Azzat Salama, Secretary General of the Association of Arab Universities, to deliver his speech on the importance of research and innovation in the Arab world.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Her Excellency Dr. Sheikha bin Rana bint Isa bin Duaij Al Khalifa, Secretary General of the Higher Education Council, Deputy Chairperson of the Board of Trustees of the Higher Education Council, Professor Wahib Al Khaja, Chairman of the Board of Trustees of Applied Science University, Professor Ghassan Awad, President of Applied Science University, Their Excellencies Ambassadors, distinguished guests, professors and researchers, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. Actually, it gives me great pleasure to be back here again in Bahrain. I came here maybe 5 or 6 times. This is my 5th or 6th visit to Bahrain. And every time I come here, I find something new and something good. So congratulations for Bahrain for the improvements and for the advancements which they are doing. Excellencies, distinguished guests, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to this distinguished audience. Let me say that scientific and technological innovation is the source of the development of the society as a whole. They are the engines of modernization and one of the most important factors for the progress and development of society. The world is witnessing rapid technological development that has directly led to the rise of the digital economy. Despite the transformation measures towards the digital economy in the Arab countries, its contribution to the GDP is still much lower than the global level and reaches only 4%, while this percentage at the global level reaches approximately 22%. This is a result of the weak investment in basic digital networks, an institutional structure based on inflexible laws and legislations, and the lack of use of modern technologies which contributed to the spread of technical illiteracy. The digital economy is also responsible for the creation of 65% of the new jobs. The labor market is changing. It is becoming more and more global, open and competitive. The demand for high skills is growing, and higher education, with its links to research and innovation, has a crucial role to play in equipping students with those skills. Arabs' growth and prosperity depend on that. Student expectations are changing too. In today's digital era, students want to choose what they learn, how and where they learn, and when they learn. It's a different era. It's expected that 75 million jobs will be eliminated by the end of 2022 in the 20 major economies. Meanwhile, technological developments and new ways of working could also create more than 133 million jobs. Today in the Arab world, we have nearly 100 million young people between the age of 15 and 29 who suffer from unemployment. And it is estimated that the number of jobs that Arab countries need to create exceeds 60 million over the next 3 decades. Investing in innovation has become one of the most important factors on which the success of organizations depends. It's a critical factor in the organization's performance and survival of the firms in competitive environments. International experiences show us that entrepreneurship stimulates the creation of jobs and the formation of emerging companies for ambitious youth and as an alternative to traditional work paths or unemployment. The success of entrepreneurs depends on the maturity of the basic business environment. Today, scientific research is seen as an integral part of our approach to addressing global challenges related to climate, environment, health, energy, and food production. Research conducted at universities is today increasingly seen by politicians as a national resource, but it is in practice a global project. Successful research community requires innovative environment, resources, and funds. Research in Arab countries is weak. Arab countries spend less than 1% of the total national income on scientific research. While it reaches 4% in the developed countries, the private sector contributes only 3% of the total funding in the Arab countries, while it ranges between 52% to 70% in the developed countries. In some countries, like Japan, such as Japan, it reached 80%. The private sector actually contributes 80% of the research fund. The average of researchers per million inhabitants in the Arab countries is about 639, whereas the global average is 1,243. The ratio of the Arab scientific publications to international scientific publication is only 1.3%, although the Arab world represents 5% of the total population of the world. So we should at least be 5%. Ladies and gentlemen, Arab universities contribute to social, environment, and economic development, being one of the most important incubators of ideas and solutions to global problems, making them capable of making a positive impact. Throughout Arab countries, over 65% of all research output is produced by universities. Arab universities have made many improvements in recent years, including remarkable progress in world university rankings. But many of them still suffer from difficulties that can impede the educational process and research activities. These difficulties may stem from poor material or human resources or other intertwined and complex reasons. Ultimately, this leads to the absence of a clear scientific vision and a weak contribution to building a knowledge society that participates in finding scientific and practical solutions appropriate to problems which Arab societies suffer. The Association of Arab Universities was established in 1964 by a decree from the Council of the Arab League as an independent, not-for-profit organization. The association seeks to advance higher education in the Arab world, especially in the fields of research, scientific publishing, digital transformation, capacity building, quality assurance, and enhancing students' learning. Based on its strategic plan for the period 2019-2030, the association developed and is developing practical solutions to many of these challenges. Through its scientific and research projects and programs, such as the Arab University Ranking Project, the Project for the Development of Arab Periodicals, the Arab Qualifications Framework, and the Arab Impact Factor for the Arabic journals. In addition, the association signed many agreements with bodies and companies specialized in higher education affairs, such as Elsevier, Coursera, the Arab Federation for Digital Economy, the Chinese Technology Transfer Center, and announced and allocated prizes for scientific research, the latest of which is the Prince Mohammed bin Fahd University Award for the best scientific research and production. The association has also initiated several periodical conferences, symposiums, and forums in cooperation with counterpart associations in China, Europe, Malaysia, Turkey, Germany, and Russia. Finally, many of the Arab countries have launched their own initiatives to promote science, technology, and innovation. To promote technological advances, Arab countries should invest in quality education for youth, contribute skills training for workers and managers, and should ensure that knowledge is shared as widely as possible across society. Arab universities must strive towards improving the quality of education and graduating qualified students equipped with knowledge, skills, experience their countries need. It is important to review the budget for scientific research aimed at finding solutions to environmental, health, industrial, and agricultural problems. I would like to thank the Kingdom of Bahrain and its universities for developing and supporting higher education in the Arab region and in the Association of Arab Universities. And I would also like to thank the Applied Science University, represented by its president, for Professor Ghassan Awad, for organizing this event. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Excellency. The future of engineering in the digital age is our next speech delivered by Dr. Ra'id Al-Alawi, President of the Bahrain Society of Engineers.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Your Excellency, Dr. Rana bint Isa bint Age Al-Khalifa, Secretary General of the Higher Education Council, Deputy Chairperson of the Board of Trustees of HEC, Professor Wahib Al-Khaja, Chairman of Board Trustees of Applied Science University, Professor Ghassan Awad, President of ASU, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I would like first to thank Professor Ghassan for inviting me here to be and to give one of the opening speech at this remarkable conference. As you are aware, digital transformation is impacting most aspects of our lives and the organization in which we deal with. The demand for emerging technology, as well as technological advancement, being made every day, make a career in engineering an exciting one. Today, organizations' success is dependent on the successful adaptation of the latest information and communication technologies. Engineers have the technological knowledge or technical knowledge that the organization needs to make the best technology choices and effectively apply them. This means that the skills and knowledge of engineers are more critically needed than ever. Engineers of the future are required to play a greater role in technological strategic planning and decision-making and its implementation to the organization. Their knowledge and skills needs to be included in decision-making at all levels. Engineers need to understand the impact the new technologies will have on their industry and on their organization, along with the opportunities and challenges that they enable. The wide range of technological changes available to organizations usually causes confusion that often prevent them from progressing with digital transformation. Deciding where technological investment is most effective is a difficult and requires the inclusion of skilled technical judgment from engineers. Engineering today is no longer seen as a purely industrial and manufacturing world. The industry is focusing more on the impact of their business on the environment and the society. So engineers need to understand how to use adaptive technologies to ensure sustainability and create environmental friendly products and services. Take the example of Japan, which has proposed Society 5.0, a super smart society which aims at creating a society that can resolve various social challenges by incorporating the technologies and innovations of the fourth industrial revolution, such as IoT, big data, cloud computing, robotics, biotechnology, nanotechnology, quantum computing, and many more. All these technologies incorporated into every industry and into our social life. In Society 5.0, the need for massive physical and repetitive tasks is almost lost or hugely minimized. And in this case, engineers need to focus on creativity and innovative activities. By doing so, the society of the future will be one in which new values and services are created continuously, making people's life more comfortable and sustainable. Hence, engineers of the future will be more focused on people and society. The emergence of physical and digital technologies require renovation that would affect not only the way engineering is approached, but also in the way education is delivered and designed. Therefore, designing and developing curricula focusing on competencies and abilities of a new generation engineers will be a necessity for sustainable success. Hence, future engineering education should go beyond equipping engineering students with the theoretical and technical aspects of design and innovation. Engineering graduates need to enter the domain of ethics and humanity and understand how their work interacts with society and the environment locally and globally in order to identify potential challenges, risks, and impacts. Ideally, engineers educated in the new education paradigm should be able to drive and direct the approach to what's called technological singularity, which has been defined as a future point in time at which technological growth becomes uncontrollable and irreversible, leading to unpredictable impact on a human civilization, while ensuring human rights and focusing on construction of a more sustainable and equitable global society. Therefore, we encourage engineering college to constantly adapt and improve its engineering curricula to meet the future need of the profession. Dear participant, before I conclude, I would like to take this opportunity to sincerely thank the Applied Science University for inviting Bahrain Society of Engineers as partner in this important event. We are looking forward for a continued collaboration in the future. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish you a very productive conference with exciting and encouraging discussion, and may God bless you and your effort to make this event a successful and enjoyable one. And thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Raida. The role of the Chartered Institute of Building, CIOB, is in promoting research and innovation. Unfortunately, won't be delivered in person by Ms. Caroline Gamble, Chief Executive of the CIOB. It will be played in the next recorded video.
Hello, I'm Caroline Gamble, Chief Executive of CIOB. If my diary had allowed, I would have loved to have been with you today. So I'm sorry I cannot be with you in person. I do hope to be back in the Middle East sometime next year. In the meantime, I would like to give you a brief overview of some of CIOB's work. When Professor Ghassan Aoud, an esteemed past president of CIOB, asked if I might be able to contribute to this event, he suggested I talk about the role of the Chartered Institute of Building in promoting research and innovation. The term innovation covers a whole host of things, too many to capture in a short video message from me, but I'm happy to give CIOB's position on digital technology and innovation. We all know that digital technologies are now an integral part of our built environment, and the presence of building information modelling, or BIM, our augmented reality, drones and 3D printing will only increase as time goes on. The adoption of digital tech is obviously an opportunity for this important industry. It is generally agreed that incorporating digitalisation into construction has the potential to help improve productivity and increase efficiency, better monitor safety and well-being, and attract a younger and more diverse workforce, something that is essential for our industry to thrive. But there are undoubtedly challenges and concerns with construction moving to become more digitally and technologically focused. Among the concerns I have heard expressed as that traditional and smaller building firms could be squeezed out, and that there is a long-term strategic skills plan for bringing in the necessary roles and talent. The CIOB position is to encourage the advancement of digital technologies and recognise the positive impact they could have while addressing those concerns. We do need to focus on providing the industry with the people and the skills needed to embrace technological advancements. So, for example, in the UK, this is why we work with the Construction Industry Training Board, and we must continue to work with industry to understand and plan for the future skills landscape. We have also tried to influence the government to continue working with industry to invest in digital technologies to support construction. The use of digital construction and building management tools has also been on the agenda in the UK as the result of the Building Safety Act. In developing this new legislation and responding to the post-Grenfell construction landscape, there has been much talk of a golden thread of information for buildings. 2 years ago, CIOB collaborated with I3PT certification to publish a golden thread report in which we shared that most built environment professionals in the UK believe that a digital golden thread of information will enable better decision making and create a clearer chain of accountability. The report goes on to provide important insights into the industry's understanding of the golden thread and what will be needed to deliver it in practice. More broadly, our work to provide support around digitalisation in construction continues with our Digital and Innovation Advisory Panel, which is looking at how current and future ways of working are reshaping the construction industry and the impact on job roles. We also have our own online magazine, BIM Plus, available to members and non-members, which is keeping pace with innovation in the industry. Thank you so much for listening, and I send you my very best wishes for every success with this event. Thank you.
And now, Professor Wahib Al-Khaja, Chairman of the Board of Trustees, and Professor Ghassan Awad, the President of the University, are invited on stage. Applied Science University would like to honor Her Excellency Dr. Sheikha Rana bint Isa bint Eid Al Khalifa, Secretary General of the Higher Education Council, Deputy Chairperson of the Board of Trustees of the Higher Education Council, for her patronage. Also, we would like to honor His Excellency Professor Amr Azzat Salama, Secretary General of the Association of Arab Universities. Professor Deborah Johnson, but it will be provided to Professor Chris Harty. Dr. Ashwin Fernandez, the QS Regional Director, Middle East, Africa, and South Asia. Mr. Christian Rumble, the International Partnerships Manager, Advanced HA. Dr. Matt Duran from CIOB. And I must admit that Mr. Matt Duran today was our hero. Dr. Raida Al-Alawi, President of the Bahrain Society of Engineers. Dr. Amina Bouallai, Chief of Scientific Research Development at HEC. Professor Riyad Al-Shalabi, Chair of Scientific Committee. Mr. Abdullah Al-Khaja, Chair of Organizing Committee. Thank you so much, Your Excellency. Thank you, Professor Ghassan, Professor Wahib. And now we'll be having 20 minutes coffee break and then get back again to the sessions with the keynote speaker, Dr. Ashwin Fernandez, and the panel discussion. Thank you. See you again.
Okay, we start now with the keynote address by Dr. Ashwin Fernandez, the QS Regional Director, Africa, Middle East, and South Asia. Ashwin, you are well known in the region, and your presentation is about digital transformation and its impact on the leadership and management of projects and organizations. Thank you, Dr. Ashwin, and welcome.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. A very good morning. I have the slide up there, yes. So my presentation is about digital transformation and its impact on the leadership and management of projects and organizations. What if I told you that technology is not disrupting any industry? Would you agree with me? You wouldn't agree with me. But you have to agree with me today because technology itself cannot disrupt any industry. Technology is enabling and amplifying the potential of people, humans. And humans, or people, are the heart of digital transformation. So getting to the basics of what is digital transformation, or DX, it is the adoption, very simply, of digital technology by any organization to digitize non-digital products, services, or operations. The goal is to increase value through innovation, invention, customer experience, or efficiencies. Some of the early adopters probably are into converting manual documents and projects so they do not get damaged over time. It paves the way for leadership by protecting intellectual property and helps to manage projects which perhaps are bulk in nature. That's the early understanding of digital transformation. But is there a difference between digital transformation, digitization, and digitalization? And I have seen through today's discussions in the morning, and of course, readings and meeting various people, that we use these three words in repetition. But is there a difference? So there is a difference. Digitization is the first step. It is basically converting a document into a PDF, perhaps, or any digital form, and saving that in a digital resource, which is very simple. That is not digital transformation. The second step is digitalization, which means there are some actions taken after you save this PDF. There are some steps of either uploading it on the cloud, making it accessible, having perhaps some steps associated with the digitization. And finally, digital transformation is really the business which is enabled by digitization, wherein there are processes, there are steps, people are involved, decisions are taken. So truly, I think it is changing the business processes and make it more enabling. But where do we stop at? Mostly, we've seen either universities or businesses perhaps just stop at digitalization. But taking digitalization and changing the processes, the products, and the organization mindset would further lead to digital transformation. So, digital transformation is not a one-off. It is not buying a software or buying a digital service and putting it in place. It is about an ongoing, continuous evolution in what you're doing. It improves, it is ongoing, it looks at how you're doing it and further adds on to that. But it is just beyond people and beyond technology. It is change of mindset. And we've seen that, people get softwares, and I think in QS as well, we love to get different other services and digital platforms. Perhaps the integration between them is required. So for truly digital transformation, they have to be talking to each other. People have to learn not just using the service and then printing out paper, but how do you take the whole process end to end by looking at the culture in the place and as well as the mindset of people. So looking at some of the benefits of digital transformation and looking at some of the examples globally, the first, most simple is the increase of human productivity. And based on a study done by Xerox, found that businesses can save up to 528 hours per employee per year by just digitizing their data collection efforts. And that number can go even higher when you actually have a proper full digital transformation. So it also helps with increasing productivity and definitely saving time. The other area it can help with is providing the status of work in progress. and, of course, helping focus on the results. According to a 2020 McKinsey report, a third of all sales tasks could be automated. A third of all sales tasks could be automated. Now, that's a game changer when you're looking at improving efficiency of a sales team. Yet, the same report states that 1 in 4 companies had only automated one of their sales processes. And further, it adds that using a simple sales software system has increased productivity by 10 to 15% and helped in 10% higher sales. Now, that would mean attainment of digital transformation across the organization to change of mindset and change of culture with technology. And the third benefit, very simply, is to do with security, data protection. A report again by Xerox says that 25% of print jobs across the organizations they surveyed are never picked up by the user that printed them. And that happens also in organizations which have gone to digitalization. Now, not just by eliminating the need for printing is one step, but changing the mindset in the digital transformation process can not only save paper and toner, but also time and energy of the people involved. So what's the conclusion I'm trying to make with these introductory slides is that it is not just about technology. It is about people, leaders, managers, open to change. So digital transformation also involves change management. They should be willing to embrace new ways of working. And I know when I visit some institutions across the world, I send them an email to the Vice Chancellor. Somebody has to print the email, put it in front of the Vice Chancellor. The Vice Chancellor writes a message and then gives it to the clerk, and that person then types it back to me, and then I get it, and then there's a to and fro. That is not true digital transformation. And I think that can only happen when an end-to-end change of people's mindset. Again, I have to repeat, because we've been talking of technology all this while. Technology is just the enabler. So in organizations, it can help improve operations, customer experience, efficiency, and also the working experience. So simply looking at the shift from analog to digital, here are just some of the examples. It truly does not represent what it means to be a digitally native organization, but simply having, in an analog native, you have a centralized enterprise workforce. In a digitally native, it is decentralized, where various people are involved in the process. In analog, you would have voice and text. In digital, or a fully transformed digital transformation organization, you would have video calls, including AR and VR. In analog, you will do a high share of repetitive work. In digital, you will be having fulfillment comes first, and the schedule of work definitely doesn't lose importance. There is a focus on office work parallel to home options. And in digital, there is, of course, cloud solutions being used, and people are mobile. So there are quite a few examples, and we can go on about it. But what is the model I would like to propose? And this is, of course, done to research, and some of the organizations across the world, not necessarily universities, have used this model. And in a brief slide, the model has got 7 phases. The first phase is examining the procedures. Before, of course, getting the technology in place, we have to examine the procedures. For example, the email which came in and went on to print and then went back. How could that process be changed? Doing extensive research, what would it be? What would it involve? How can we bring in the change? And of course, taking the people on the journey with us. Thereafter, designing and implementing that roadmap with blending both internal and external channels and procedures. And finally, it involves training everybody. And that training can or should be followed by using new tools and evaluation of the results. There's a detailed document I have put in the proceedings which you can read, but I've tried to give an executive summary of what the proposed model is all about. So the digital economy, and why are we talking of digital transformation? Currently, before COVID, the digital economy had a 15% share of the GDP. We now have to look at what, of course, COVID has been an enabler of, or it has energized the use of technology, but I see a lot of people going back to the old ways after COVID. So we have to see at how this impacts the future now. When we look at digital transformation in the Arab region, I would like to quickly touch on some points here, and I think you all are aware of it, but definitely it's good to recognize some of those areas which have really excelled in the region. The first is we've seen that digital transformation has truly started with the governments. And we can see to use of the various apps, the payment methods, it has made it easier for citizens not only to access, but also consume this information. In Bahrain, the digital first principle has helped Bahrain, of course, be a digitally transformed economy. And the examples of these perhaps are the Sijilat, the commercial registration portal, which talks to, of course, the national taxation system, which further talks to Sehati, the national social health insurance program. So these systems have to start talking to each other and truly embedded in a system, and the mindset of the people has to be changed. If you look at the UAE, which ranks first in several indices, which include mobile broadband usage, the healthcare coverage, the public-private partnership, and several other uses of technology into the system. Of course, in the region, we've seen when COVID hit, the Arab region was one of the first regions in the world, even more so than West, which was able to, in a day, shift from in-person classes to online classes. And that is, of course, due to the visionary leadership of several countries here, which have actually made that possible. And I think that has been a further enabler of digital transformation in the region. Robotics, the Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, cloud technologies are also playing a vital role in the region. It is estimated that the service robots industry would reach 4 billion by 2025 in the Arab region. It is also estimated that semiconductors, sensors, and robots for industrial or general purpose use could provide an estimated 25 billion revenue by 2025 in the Arab region. So we are in the region here at the heart of the action in digital transformation. But ladies and gentlemen, I would like to provide you with the 4 pillars. As we've gone through everything, it's very important to know that digital transformation is not just about technology. Mindset has a 40% weight, as per Everbrook, who has done a study in HRM Asia. Mindset has a 40% contribution to digital transformation. It is not just buying the software or the technology or the robots to do that. People have a 25% coverage in there. Processes have a 25%, and technology has a 10% weight in there. So it is all about people, mindset, and processes. So the conclusion is that the impact of digital transformation on leadership and management is definitely far-reaching. It's changing the way we communicate, we collaborate, and make decisions. It's also giving rise to new roles and responsibilities as organizations seek to capitalize on the opportunities presented by digital technologies. With that, I have one more slide, and I know I promised Professor Ghassan that I will not talk of rankings, but for the ranker inside me, I thought it would be good to have some context into rankings. So I have 3 points I would like to leave you with. The first is a recent report from the World Bank reveals that in higher education institutions which are able to leverage on technology are able to have a competitive advantage. It also says that HEIs that invest in technology are able to reshape their operations, and that happened soon with COVID. And finally, a research study by the University of Malaya in Malaysia reports that 369 universities out of 500, of the top 500, that integrated technology in overall operations, improve their rank, and enable a high performance. So, with that, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to leave you with those thoughts, and I hope I could add you some value on some of the model, on one of the models and the pillars of digital transformation. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that fantastic talk. Very thought-provoking, and interesting that your final bullet point was about technology and HEIs, higher education. It was set for the other Ron. So yes, as I was saying, interesting that final point was about digital technologies and higher education in establishments. And so now we move on to our panel Q&A session this morning on the future of higher education in the digital age and industry needs. Now, I have a feeling it's going to be a bit of a sort of moving magical chairs, but if I can just invite our panelists up, and I'll start with Christian Rumble. Welcome, Christian. So Christian is International Partnerships Manager at Advanced HE, works across the globe in terms of enhancing the performance of HE organisations, especially around Saharan Africa, Northern Eastern Europe, and Advanced HE is an independent charitable organisation working in partnership with many universities across the globe and does great work. And before that, Christian was at the University of Hull as Assistant Director of Careers and Enterprise for some years. So welcome, Christian. Thank you. We'll give a... And our second panellist, please, is Dr. Amina Boulay. Please come up and take a seat. So Amina is Acting Director of Accreditation and Licensing at the Higher Education Council here in Bahrain. Her PhD in Management Studies is from Brunel University in London, not so far away from where LSBU is. She has been ranked as one of the worldwide top 2% best researchers by Stanford for this and last year, which is a fantastic achievement. And she's been, I think, very good. And she has many, many different prizes and awards for her work. Welcome, both of you. Thanks very much for being here. So in a moment, I'm going to ask, I will start perhaps with you, Amina, just to come up and give us, it's your provocation, it's your initial thoughts around the future of higher education in the digital age. And then once you've done that, we'll swap over to Christian and we'll keep moving backwards and forwards like that for the next 45 minutes or so. So please, Amina, if you'd like to.
Assalamu alaikum. My point of view about the future of higher education institution in the digital area and industry need, I think the pandemic has already shaped the future of higher education and the digital area. It forced the higher education institution to redraw their teaching and learning strategy and include the digital technology in their education and learning strategy. So the answer of what's the future of higher education in the digital area already answered by the pandemic. And we cannot go step backward, and we will continue using the digital technology. As the title of this conference is about the leadership and management of a project in the digital age, I would like to say something for all of you about the leadership in the digital age. Her Excellency, Sheikha Dr. Rana, has instructed us at the Higher Education Council to turn over the role of higher education to a more supportive entity. And she always tells us to start preparing not only for the fourth industrial revolution, but for the fifth industrial revolution, to move from digitalization to personalization. Digitalization is to make how to cope with the machine. She opened a new specialization for many universities, such as artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, cybersecurities, to prepare us and prepare all the higher education institutions for the fifth industrial revolution, which is focusing on personalization rather than digitalization. What we mean by personalization? We mean by personalization is how to communicate with the robotic, how to communicate with the artificial intelligence software rather than using it. So we are very proud to have such leaders which prepare us and prepare the higher education institution for the coming fifth industrial revolution. I don't have that much to talk about the digital age, as already the pandemic has solved all the issue of digitalizations. I would like to talk about the higher education institution and the industry needs. I think we have a gap between the industry and the higher education institution. One of the gap is, I think we cannot solve this gap through only the curriculum and the teaching and learning method and the pedagogies. We have to change the whole system of education, starting from the top of the hierarchy, starting from the board of directors. We should have at least some board members from the industry. Moving to the next layer, the leadership should have some experience, not only academic experience in the field, but they should have some experience from the industry. And moving to the third layer, which is the instructor and the pedagogy of the learning and teaching, we could do many things or many actions to involve the industry needs into our curriculum. We can invite guest instructor from the industry. We can plan for a visit to industry and to mix between the practical side and the theoretical side to, at the same time, apply the theoretical part of the course itself. I think we cannot stop here at this stage. We can go beyond this stage by assuring the quality of the program provided. For the revalidation of the programs should go for both, not only for academic, but only for practical side from industry. So it is very important to have revalidation of the programs for both academic and industry reviewer. I think this is the view of a future of higher education and industry needs, what we would like to have it, inshallah.
So the digital age is here, but we need to do an awful lot of work right the way through our organisations. Christian, can I invite you to come and do the same, give your thoughts, initial thoughts? Thank you.
Thank you. Salam alaikum, His Excellency, distinguished guests. Professor Gasson referred to Chris and himself as the two Ronnies earlier. I like that. Actually, there was a part on the two Ronnies where one of them would play the piano. Now, they'd play all the right notes, just in the wrong order. And that's a bit like predicting the future. So there was also another programme, actually, when I was growing up called Tomorrow's World that featured Sir Clive Sinclair C5, and that also crashed. So, you know, predicting the future is often very inaccurate, and it's not an easy exercise to do. And it's quite messy. Life is complex. I mean, look how many TV channels we have now. Look how many apps there are. When I was growing up, I think we had 4 TV channels. But I think I'd like to just present and position some provocations. And you will see my notepad. I've been scribbling furiously from all the speakers that have imparted some real words of wisdoms today. But I think it's really important that we take time to look at the future and to map out multiple futures, whether you're in higher education, in industry, whichever sector. It's important that we look at what's possible, what's probable, and what's desirable. And that's important because we need to do this in order to create our own vision for the future. A future thinking allows us to plan and prepare for the future and backcast to mitigate risk and create the vision that we want for ourselves, our students, not just for our industry, but the wider communities in which we serve. So, future thinking that challenges the status quo is really important. And there are 4 themes that I've picked up on today that I'd just like to share with you. Some of them contradict, and there are some underlying tensions. But the first, I think, is that students in the future will learn at pace and at a place that suits them. And students will feel little or no allegiance to an individual institution, and that can be quite difficult for us to comprehend. Whether it's true or not, we don't know because it's in the future. But I think learning spaces will become more agnostic. You know, learning will take place in the workplace. There'll be multiple pathways into the lifelong learning sector, and there'll be a proliferation of alternative open education providers, and indeed we are seeing that. Students will also learn through and about 4IR, the Internet of Things, augmented reality, virtual reality, and they'll be embedded into learning and teaching. And we'll provide, as educators, we will need to provide opportunities that are authentic and engaging at the heart of student-centered learning and teaching, and leading to the development of skills that are fit for the 21st century workplace. The third theme, and this is an area that we spend a lot of time at Advanced HE looking at, is how student learning is monitored. How is it analysed, assessed, and adapted to their needs? So we'll see higher education driven by artificial intelligence. But as AI becomes more sophisticated, so are cognitive tasks it can replace. And it will support an accessible and flexible, quality higher education sector through learning analysis, semantic web tech, discourse analytics, social network analysis. There'll be online proctoring and authentication tech tools that are really sophisticated. But the final and most important future-looking perspective, I think, is that we'll see the embedded community university. And we are seeing this, and this is really important if our higher education system is to survive as a force for good. The embedded community university will be an ecosystem that builds and maintains strong relationships between local communities, industries, and they will collaborate and engage in joint decision-making towards innovative solutions and a shared purpose. And that can be in your local physical community, but it can also be geospatial, transcending boundaries. So those are the 4 themes that I just wanted to cover, and we've heard elements of those themes throughout the day, and that was really my opportunity to put out there some provocations about the future of higher education in the digital age, and some of those industrial needs.
Thank you, Christian. Very thought-provoking themes there. And I think we can now move on to some sort of specific questions. And again, we'll be moving around between chairs and in front of the microphone. But I'm going to ask Amina a question first, if I may. And I'd like you to think about how digital technology will affect skills acquisition and professional accreditation. Please.
I think skill acquisition have gone on three stages. The first stage is the cognitive acquisition. The second stage is the associative stage. And the third one is the autonomous stage. I think that digital technologies and digital learning, it's applicable for the cognitive stage. However, for the two more stages, it is not possible because in the associative stage, they have to mix the skills with the practical way. And for the autonomous stage, it also can be taken from the two both mentioned skills acquisition. So I feel for the acquisition stage, the digital technology is very beneficial, but for the autonomous and associative stage, it needs some face-to-face strategies and learning.
Okay, thanks. So do you think, what about things like virtual and augmented reality technology? Does that get you into those other two stages of learning, of acquisition?
It can be applied for some disciplines, for example, STEM education. However, for some disciplines, by its nature, it is difficult to apply the digital technologies such as history, arts, and other disciplines. I feel it's difficult to eliminate the conventional mode of education with those disciplines, but it can be applied and with an innovation with the STEM education and other education that have a practical pathway.
Okay. And how about, how do you see the sort of professional institutions, the professional accreditation process? Do you think that's going to demand more sort of digital learning, or is it going to act as a force to kind of keep that face-to-face, that more direct, people-based?
I feel it is the trend now to use the online education learning, but some of the professional entities or professional organizations are still demanding the conventional mode. It maybe takes some time to cope with these changes and to recognize the importance of the e-learning and online teaching.
Thanks. Yeah, no, really, really interesting. Christian, is there anything you'd like to add in terms of that question, or we can move on to the next one?
I think just to one point that I'd want to add, and it probably leads into something that I'm going to touch on, is, the place of higher education has never been more important or valuable today than ever before. And indeed, I remember 5 or 6 years ago when MOOCs were launched, and they were seen in some quarters as a threat to higher education. Now, MOOCs have got millions of users, but actually they sit beside higher education, and I think it's important, and they're cheap. You get a verified certificate, but I think employers still recognise the intrinsic value and of doing a degree. So I think we must hang on to this, that ultimately universities are there to add a premium to the learning experience, whether it's through the degree that you study or the process of spending 3 years on a campus, for example.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, it's interesting, isn't it, that the sort of the set of demands. I mean, at London South Bank University, we've got a lot of degree apprentices who are doing a degree in 5 years, but 1 day a week whilst they're working, and employers are trying to get both, if you like, trying to get the university degree value add as well as have them as productive employers. But that leads us into the next question, which I'll ask you to start with, Christian, and that's, you know, the extent to which conventional means of education, of teaching and learning might be replaced by digital technologies. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh gosh, how long have you got? I mean, it's an interesting question. I mean, for me, COVID was interesting. I think post-COVID, there was a lot of cognitive dissonance within the higher education sector. There were those delivering learning and teaching that were patting themselves on the back, saying what a great job they'd done. And yet there was a lot of student dissatisfaction, and a lot of that was borne out by the fact that we hadn't really got to grips about how we use the online space to enhance what we deliver. You know, we'll never get rid of the traditional image of the teacher, the academic, the lecturer. If I look around here now, many of us will have been inspired, not just by the subject knowledge they imparted, but the fact that they may be acted as a role model, a mentor, a confidant. They also impart something really quite powerful that you lose if it's not used properly, digital tools, and that's the ability to develop communication skills, the ability to look somebody in the eye and network, the ability to critically analyse something and get your points across. When you put people in a room like we've got today, ideas are sparked and enthusiasm can be felt within the room, and that's where innovation takes place. So yes, there is a place and there is a shift in conventional means of education, and I think a lot of that is the fact that when I look at the ladies and gentlemen sat in front of me, Generation Xers, and I look over there, Generation Yers, we're talking about digital immigrants, digital natives. So universities need to think, if you're an immigrant, think like a native and start planning and processing things with a digital first mindset. And that doesn't mean throwing the baby out with the bathwater. What it means is looking that we have a new age, a Y generation, a new age of people coming through that are making decisions, or soon will be, about how we think, how we learn, how we work, how we play, and it's important that we build that in, but without losing some of those more traditional forms of education that have stood, and conventional methods of education that have stood the test of time.
I mean, your reflections, I'm sure, would be shared by many in terms of what we had to do with COVID and with lockdowns, and what impact that had on learning and what impact that had on our students, and how warmly they've re-embraced coming back into the lecture theatre or lab now that we're able to. Amina, is there anything you'd like to add to that? Or?
I do agree with my colleague. It will be different between the generation, yes.
And so, you know, a moving target, who knows what 10 or 15 years is going to look like in terms of the demands of learners in the sector. So we'll move on to another question, and I'll start with you, if I may, Amina, and that's about digital technology and the relationship between higher education institutions and industry. So how do you think increased use of digital technology might impact that relationship between universities and industry?
I think the industry can benefit from the digital technology by adapting a research with the higher education institution. If the higher education institution have a link with the industry, they can easily export the data from the higher education institution and vice versa for the research purpose. and they also can communicate easily through online library or online data. They can do research together. They can innovate together. A student can involve directly into this, for example, website or a database, and can work very easily together instead of going to the industry, take permission, and require an access to the data. It will ease the way of research between the higher education institution and the research in the industries.
Thank you. So it offers some new opportunities. Do you think, in terms of, when we were speaking about learning, you talked about learning acquisition and how some forms of learning lend themselves well to digitalization and others don't. Do you think that's the same in terms of that process of industry and university engagement? Are there some things that digital technology is going to make easier or quicker or give more options, but some still needs more old-fashioned ways of engaging?
I think, yes, it will be easier and accessible. And I think the big industry companies, they should have R&D center. And in their R&D centers, research and development, they can communicate easily with the higher education institutions and pick up the best or the pioneer students in the field, and it will benefit them.
Yes, we want all companies to have R&D and work with universities. Absolutely, absolutely right. Christian, any further thoughts?
I think from something that you mentioned, Chris, and this is really important, and some of my colleagues here today will attest to this, is it's about future-proofing, and it's about being able to have a mature approach to due diligence around, particularly within the learning space, about what works and what doesn't work. And that's part of what Advanced HE does, as well as recognising and rewarding those academics that deliver learning and teaching, and that are passionate about supporting students. It's also about having a rational or coherent model to follow, and in terms of what elements of tech you use, and being able to do your own due diligence when you bring it into the space. Now, whether that's for learning and teaching or research. And I think in some ways, this is where the complexity starts, and I think the sophistication around that approach we apply is still emerging. Look at what's happened in industry with FTX and the billions lost through the crypto company that's crashed. Now, a lot of that, stepping back and as an observer who doesn't know much about blockchain or crypto, but for me, there's a need there because no ethics have been applied, there's very little regulation, and this isn't just an amateur investor, these are big companies that have gone in that are supposed to know better. So when it comes to tech, we're still lacking some moral and ethical answers when it comes to how we frame what we use, rather than just accepting that everything's good and for a force for good. Actually, as experts, as professionals, we need to step back and maybe look at things through an ethical lens, which sometimes doesn't go on. So back to the original point, I agree. I think there's a multitude of tools that are out there to enhance what we do. We need to be just a bit more mature and rational in our approach about the ones that we adopt.
Thanks, Christian. I think that's a really interesting and important point in terms of, digital technology is not in and of itself a fantastic, positive, morally good thing. It's sort of ambivalent to that, and I think that idea leads us into the next question, which is really about digital technology's impact on accessibility of learning, and I'd be interested in your thoughts on that.
Thanks. Yes, thanks, Chris. I think it's interesting. Accessibility is interesting. It's when we talk about accessibility and digital tech, we're thinking about how it supports the democratization of learning. But actually there's something wider. There's something around belonging and resilience and health and well-being. So do we all have equal access to tech? Indeed, do we all have access to basic things such as connectivity? Do we see it as an important infrastructure? Do all countries see it as an important infrastructure? Is it not just a nice to have, but a need, a necessity? So whilst it supports, accessibility is really important. And it requires a strategic approach, whether that's at industry, institutional, cross-sector level or government level. But it needs to be driven within higher education. I think accessibility is driven by a need to create an inclusive campus. And sometimes it can be difficult to know where to start. As I said before, it's multifaceted. So it needs stakeholders from across the institution and outside of the institution to develop clear approaches to accessibility. But also, as I said before, it's multifaceted. So accessibility and disability. How do we ensure that we cater for people with extra needs or special needs? And what about digital poverty? Some of the countries that are developing, we know that they don't have access to laptops, mobile phones, and so on and so forth. So there are issues there that need addressing. And again, accessibility could relate to TNE and the emergence of some weird and wonderful transnational educational partnerships that are springing up. Not just the traditional 2+2 or 3+1, but the virtual campus, collaborations where universities will deliver degrees through a franchise, a mix of virtual, so moving away to new models, new commercial models as well, geospatial models. So accessibility is quite complicated, and there's a lot that we need to unpick, and the future around accessibility is something that we need to try and look at and predict. And I think it relates back to what do we want from higher education, and how do we want the needs of both industry and higher education to interrelate, and accessibility plays a big role in that.
Thanks. Absolutely, it's a complex issue, as you've said a number of times, but it's kind of interesting, I guess, where we might feel that we're able to deliver learning digitally quite effectively, and we have lots of experience in that, but perhaps all those things that you're talking about around the edges, if you like, the experience, the campus, you know, how we translate that, if indeed that's the thing we want to do into the digital world, is much more of a challenge, and we're much less developed in our thinking, I think, on that. Amira, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Nothing to add. Everything he has already take it from my mouth, and he answered the question very well.
Okay, well, thank you. Well, we do have a few minutes left, and so I'll be happy to take any questions from the audience. I'm going to go to you first, sir, because you had your hand up the quickest, and then I'll come to next. There we are, microphone.
Shukran. Thank you, Chris. My name is Hatem bin Mohammed Damaq from Applied Science University. I have a question for Dr. Amina regarding what Dr. Ashwan said earlier this morning, that some universities post-COVID are now coming back to the old ways, which is true. They are doing this. But we learned so many good practices and so many new habits during the COVID, and we don't want to go back. So as far as you are concerned, as HEC, as a regulatory body, what do you think, what kind of role you can play to motivate or push universities to really engage in a comprehensive digital transformation strategies or initiatives? And also the same question could be asked to Advanced HE through your various accreditation and capacity building schemes. What can you do to empower universities to do that? Thank you.
Thank you. Amina first, please.
Thank you for your question. Actually, at the Higher Education Council, we always encourage the university to use the digital technologies as strategies for delivering the teaching of the courses, and to use the some of the online videos, online technologies, but actually at the Kingdom of Bahrain, we still not have regulation regarding the online learning. So the mode of attendance here at Bahrain is the attendance mode, but the universities can use the strategies, the methods of the digital technologies. We are trying to launch a new regulation for the online learning, but it is still in the process.
Yeah, I think to add to that, so there's two ways I can answer that. The first is probably with my advanced HE hat on, and the approach that we would take is probably two or three. There's the national approach where we would bring key stakeholders from across Bahrain together. We would bring the analyses, the data, the insights that's available. From that, we would engage in some workshops about creating a strategy, what you need to do that. And then we'd work in a nuanced way with the different providers to look at how they position themselves and build that into their strategy. And then we'd want to do some sort of activities around implementation of strategy and simplistic approach to it. And then you'd want to build in evaluation, monitoring evaluation. So you create a 4-stage cyclical process that's never ending. You know, since COVID, universities have sort of cut back probably on the 10 or 15 year strategic planning because of what can happen, the unintended consequences. So you may have a 2 or 3 year strategic plan, within that a digital strategy or digital transformation strategy, but you review it every 6 months, so it needs to be agile. And as well, you want to bring in more stakeholders, and more universities are doing that. You know, good practice will bring in alumni, students, alumni, local employers, national, international employers, you know, employer groups, professional bodies, and so on and so forth to contribute to that strategy. That's not to say that you take everything on board, but the more information you have, the more foresight you can build in, means that you are, again, this term future-proofing, you are resilience, you are building in robust systems that will allow you to move forward in a way that either minimizes disruption when it comes to implementing something new, or if there's a COVID Mark 2 or Mark 3, that you can react and respond appropriately. I think the point I made before about there was some cognitive dissonance around the way that we felt as academics. We did well during COVID, and actually students' perceptions around initially being patient with the approach, but then losing their patience and their expectations being raised about what they could expect in the online space. So I think what's happening now is that those that are involved in delivering learning and teaching realise that in order to engage and retain students in the online space, they need to be more creative and innovative. So it's about looking at what you can introduce into the online space to do that. So I think with regards to the point in Bahrain and the way forward would be to look at how do you create a multimodal approach to learning and teaching, but ultimately what works best for the student.
Thank you, and I'll come to Ghassan,
Thank you, Professor Chris, and thank you, Dr. Amina, Mr. Christian. My question is related to, as you know, Dr. Amina, in Bahrain, the bylaws of the HEC are that for somebody to teach at a university, they must have a master's degree or a PhD. In the UK, it's very, very common to see somebody with a bachelor degree who had 20 years experience, and students, they love it. How do we make sure that, because you were talking about industry needs, those industrialists, they will come and tell the students what's needed because they're hands-on. How do we make sure that we can benefit from individuals who don't have masters and PhD, who have 20 and 30 years experience to benefit our students?
Actually, we very encourage the prior learning And we know the importance of prior learning. And the Quality Assurance Authority already, they are working to align the prior learning as a they will align it to the NQF, National Qualification Framework. And I think in UK and maybe in Australia, they already recognize the importance of prior learning, and they count it as a master level or a PhD level. Here in Bahrain, we are working to develop the same framework to encourage the industry or practitioners to involve into education and learning at higher education here at Bahrain.
Just to add to that, in the UK, if you have a bachelor's degree and you're teaching undergraduate students, many universities will have criteria on recruitment that they have to achieve fellowship within a year of being in position. So fellowship is something that we own and manage that's aligned to the professional standards framework for learning and teaching in higher education. It's the only framework that exists. It's values driven, it's not an imposition. It's been adapted and adopted around the world. We've recognised about 170,000 academics with fellowship across the 4 categories for their passion, their commitment to supporting students in learning and teaching, for leading innovation within their institution, and also a principal fellow for demonstrating impact within the wider sector. So fellowship could be an option. But I think it's a really good point. It's about inspiring a generation that can meet the needs of industry, and because there's a proliferation of non-traditional forms of qualifications such as MOOCs, Coursera, so on and so forth, that are certified. What do we do? What do we do with that, and what place does that have? And do we legitimise it by routes into higher education? So there are lots of questions that neither I nor my colleague here have got the answers to, but it's important that we raise them and we debate them. And again, it's about how do we evaluate and give it validity if there's something that's there to help us to enhance the overall experience of learning and needs for our future industry.
Thanks, yeah, really interesting. Please.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed. I'm Wahib Al-Nasser from Arabian Gulf University. I've been engaged in maybe 40 years in teaching and still teaching. Now, we have to ask ourselves, why decent universities, well-known universities, they want to go back after, you see, they ran all their courses online, but now they are going back face-to-face. This is a very major question. I know the answer is because the quality of evaluating the student is not, when face-to-face, is completely different. Go to any other university and just see the marks of a student who have taken a course during the pandemic and just see the year before. You will see a big difference. There was. So, but why decent universities go back? Because I think digitalization is important. We were using textbook, and I can remember before 10 years, each, I think, publisher, they do special online evaluation. They give you the code, they give the student the code and evaluate. This, we use it as a supportive. And this is why the GCC, before, if you have any degree, you get it online, it is rejected. Any distant learning university, it is rejected. And this is the whole GCC. Now things has been changed during pandemics. I don't know, maybe just to overcome things, but supplementing, okay, blending is fine. But in any education, face-to-face is completely different than online. This is my point. If there is any comment, thank you.
I do agree with you, Prof. Wahib. maybe the assessment should have bylaws for the online learning. So if we have regulations or assessment instructions for the online learning, it would be more better. Even the grade, we would not have that much inflation in the grades. Because some of the skills does not, the student couldn't take some of the skills similar to face-to-face mode of attendance. And maybe it could be applied for the postgraduate studies, but for the bachelor degree, it is very difficult to have some skills for the university students.
The laws and legislations in all the Arab countries don't allow for online degrees, and this is they allow it only for as a temporary action during the COVID-19. Most of the Arab countries now are returning back, not fully returning back, but they are using this hybrid type of education. I think that's the main reason which is happening in our communities, yes.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say that I think post-COVID, it's not a choice of whether we return or whether we stay online. We're going to do both from now on. Our students expect it. They want both. At least that's my experience of asking my students what they want. I think that the digital economy requires us to review what skills we teach and how. I think project management, teamwork, and design, for example, are important issues. So I just wondered if you had any final comments about how we bring new skills into our curriculum, not just new disciplines or new combinations of disciplines.
Great question. Please,
I think that's a really good point, and there's, again, this is probably me giving a bit of a PR for Advanced HE, but there's a program we developed, Active Digital Design, which was with, I think it was with Sussex University, and it was about taking a digital-first mindset to create a signature pedagogy for the university, both in the online but also the physical space. And it took participants through a series of design sprints. So, and participants were from backgrounds that hadn't been through that design development process. But it was about how you design a program that's fit for the online and the physical space so that you could create efficiencies. And we took them through these series of design sprints. And it was that approach, I think, of creating what we call this signature pedagogy and taking almost like a cross-discipline principles and applying them to other areas. I think it was really important, and it got participants to think about how the parts of the faculty, the university work, but also needs of industry. And I think that's been really popular. We've delivered that not just in the UK, but here in Bahrain, but also in other parts of the world. And it's really important, I think, and it's something that we should consider seriously about how we talk about cross and multidisciplinary working, but actually we can take some of the principles and apply them quite easily to the arts and social sciences and creative subjects, and vice versa.
Well, I think we're now at the end. Sorry.
My name is Hamid Wazan from Gulf University for Science and Technology in Kuwait. It's my pleasure to be here in my second beloved country, Bahrain. I have only one concern when it comes to education, since based on my experience in user interface and user experience, UI UX. We are only in the educational sector, we are focused on a micro level scale about how to do the digital transformation as an infrastructure, while we don't think about the whole experience of digitalization, meaning how to create a user-friendly, interactive, engaging e-learning system, fully fledged one, not only sharing the screen with PowerPoints and that's it. Now the new generation are more sophisticated, and the more you make it fully fledged, interactive digital transformation, and let's say different tools that will be more engaging for the student instead of having a normal lecture. This is one. Two, how to create, how to deliver the information if we have a cross-border communication, let's say Teams or any another platform, how to make the presenter and the faculty, how to make it more engaging to the student. Let's take, for example, YouTubers, when they deliver some information about history or about any certain topic, you will find them engaging more about the information. So I think it's a two-way of communication from the student's perspective as well as the faculty of how to deliver the information when it's come to digital platform. This is one. Two, more sophistication need to be added and built for the user experience and having different platform to make it more engaging. So these two, and I believe the whole consumer journey or experience, let's say CX, have the big umbrella. Then we go to the user interface when it comes to the interface of the platform, and the user experience where we go to the UX. So this is a part of the design after implementing the digital transformation for education. All the best. Thank you.
Thank you. So we are now at the end of our allotted time, and I think those questions and the responses from our panelists show quite how complex. So I will ask you to join me in thanking our two panelists, Dr. Amira and I'm sure conversations can carry on. I know we've got to do some more work before lunch, over lunch. But thank you very much for your questions and comments. On with the next thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Chris, Mr. Christian, and Dr. Amina for the highly effective discussion and the insight you have shared. I just would like to invite all the authors to start their sessions according to the program in both the East and West Wings. And a gentle reminder about tonight's gala dinner at the Applied Science University. The bus will be moving from the hotel at 7:30, and we expected all of you to be with us tonight in ASU. See you all tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.